Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, Reddit recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting the Deep, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Monk, Sabra, or Toril, this stream is not meant for you, and will be full of spoilers, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link into the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. Welcome to the Balance Dungeon Freakout stream, where I freak out about the balance of this dungeon that I'm starting to get sick of, even though we're only still barely scratched the surface of this underwater dungeon crawl that has just an incredible density of enemies to it. And not even the density, but like the stat blocks are also a little insane. I think that barracks room last session just broke me. My poor players, like, good lord. When I really like tallied up all of the CR levels and the hit points of those creatures, it's like, what is going on for what is just another barracks room of this dungeon? It wasn't like supposed to be this big long boss battle. There was no reason that battle should have taken an entire session. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I was not happy with the performance. Not the performance. We're always a delight, I think, when we get together. But I was not happy with the pacing of that room, or the way that fight just went on for too damn long, I think, with diminishing return. So with that in mind, I think it's worth taking another pass through this dungeon to see what other changes we can make to ensure we don't run into that problem again, because I do think this dungeon is severely overtuned. Now, granted, it's not meant to be delved through completely room to room. I get that. But still, it gets crazy with the amount of those higher level Sahuagin stat blocks they're using. And the Sahuagin are deceptively powerful with the Blood Frenzy. They've already got pretty good stats, and you're in their territory. You're underwater. Now, the players all have, I think at this point, means of circumventing that, so that's not too big of an issue. But if anything, the darkness is a bigger issue than the water for them. I guess if somebody relied on like fire spells or something, that would kind of screw them up. Well, I'll tell you, the biggest one is Mac gets screwed out of not using his bow, because bows just don't really operate underwater. I don't think they're going to get to the treasure room, though, because they're already on level 2, and the treasure room is back in level 3 in the other corner, so they're kind of screwed on that. Unless I want one of the NPCs to be like, hey, well, there was a treasure room down over here. Now, they're not as bad off as I thought. They've just short rested. Obviously, Chris will have to catch up on the short rest on Friday. They're full up on hit points. Sabra is out of her 3rd and 4th level spell slots, but still has, I think, most of her 1st and 2nd spell slots. We can check on that. Toril's a warlock, has all of his. Mac, I think, is actually out of his spell slots. Let's see. She's got all 3 2nd levels, and she's got 2 1st level spell slots left. Let's check on Mac for hit dice, because I know he had to spend a bunch. How many hit dice do you have left? He has 0 spell slots left out of his 7 for Ranger. And he has 0 hit dice left. Oh, boy. Shit. This was their first short rest, I think, in this dungeon. Oh, no. Well, Toril and Sabra should be okay on hit dice. I don't think they got hit at all last fight, which is weird. I think he just took the brunt of the damage. Yeah, she's got full hit dice. Poor Mac had to use all of his. Gottwald, what are you looking like? He's got 3 out of 7, so he's going to have to roll all 3. Talk about a discrepancy. I guess that's the party using their front line pretty well. But their front liners are going to be out of hit dice. And then the back line is doing fine on hit dice. Toril's the other one is really fine being a just complete short rest class, but Sabra and Mac are running low on spells, so I have the worries. At this point, they're treating like their main quest is just to rescue the main Neverwinter crowd and get GTFO, which is okay, I guess. It would have repercussions in the story, but quest-wise, it would still be completed, sort of, according to them, because that was their goal was to just rescue people. I would really like to point them to this temple room, though. If I can do, I'm going to do everything I can to try to get them to this temple room and have one kind of good boss fight here. If we don't do the throne room, I'm totally okay with that. It's a shame because I'd love to show off Demnix's awesome special Baron artwork here that he made and sent to me. But that's a bitch of a room, and I mean, part of a stealth infiltration would probably not to be going to the head office of the dungeon. Like, I totally get that. Whereas deleting the High Priestess and especially rescuing the Lizard Queen and severing the connection that the Mind Flayers have over the Sahuagin would be probably the biggest thing you can do and the biggest like blow you can make to the Sahuagin. So I'm going to try to convince them to stop by the temple. It's kind of on the way already. If we zoom this map way out of the way. So right now they're short resting in the Shark Pen, which is room 39. They can easily go south along these crazy big corridors and then definitely avoid a barracks down here. Go west. Now, unfortunately, you can go south to the stairs without ever going towards the temple. But I'm going to try to come up with some way. Maybe they see like some pulsing light coming from here. And their other NPC allies are like, yeah, that's where the temple is. We've heard some strange noises in there or from up there. Or some way where I can just, hey, if you're curious, go check it out and see. And maybe at least one person can go in there. And they would definitely be able to stealth in this room. That's the other thing is they've been able to stealth and get ambushes on all their encounters. And it was still a bitch of a fight after that. But they would be able to stealth through this one as well. And there's actually 3 different openings you can make to get in here into this room. So hopefully we can get that one. And then at that point, once you rescue the queen, she would probably, I mean, maybe she'd suggest taking out the guys. We can see, I am giving them a bunch of allies, so I'm technically upping their power. Oh, that's another thing we can mention. I did literally upgrade Borgus. Shout out to Demnix also for giving me an updated Borgus token. Look at this absolute unit. Yes, his glory, his gloriousness. I loved the whole Borgus role-playing scene and the dice told the story, all that. And Mac literally bestowed the special armor from the Shell Sharks to Borgus, which means I cranked up his AC to 18. I'll show you the stat block for Borgus 2.0. I cranked up his AC to 18. I gave him basically twice as many hit points. Also gave him magic resistance, which is what the Shell Sharks have. I gave him a +1 to, or maybe a +1 or +2 to strengthen dex to give him to the next modifier level, which added another attack and damage to all of his attacks. And I gave him reckless attack. So there you fucking go. He has gotten like a huge glow up. He is an officially awesome party member. And that was even before he had this big glow up. So shout out to Borgus for being an absolute hero. And now between that and the Triton, they've got some pretty strong contenders, although none of them have any kind of magic spells or utility outside of just auto attacks, which is great for me as a DM having to run them. Although I could also... I could have like Mac run Borgus. I wonder if that would be fun. I don't have to run all these characters myself, and Max might have earned himself an ally here. Give him the character sheet. Be like, all right, here you go, but don't treat him unkindly. That could be a fun idea. Yeah, I'm leaning towards doing that. I'll have to make myself a note that, like, give Mac Borges ? So if we do want to encourage them to do the temple, that means maybe we should look at doing the balance. Since they're in a barracks, it would make sense their weapons in a room, throw them some harpoons and a couple crossbows, nets, etc. Do you think they care about any of that, Sylvan? I'm asking like half seriously, but like I know if I was playing like Solasta or something, or like a video game, I'd be like, all right, yeah, let's hoover up all the little bullshit mundane gear and I'll sell them at the next vendor. But we don't really. I think we started off playing if you go back to like Lost Mine of Fendover, I think we cared about that kind of a thing. But as the years have passed, I think we stopped caring, and instead I just give out. In fact, nowadays I even give out like monetary, like valuable items, and people just treat that as the gold value or something practically. Like everything is just gold. So, but you're right, they didn't actually loot the barracks. I did give them kind of a timer though, where it's like, hey, you guys are not technically set off the alarm yet, but you got to keep moving and basically not return to where you were because you're causing problems and leaving bodies everywhere you go through. So they don't really have a chance to like stop and loot, and they only recently got a chance to stop and short rest because they found kind of a semi-safe spot they can hunker down in here. And also we have 5-minute short rest, so that's not too bad. But they're not hiding any of the bodies or doing any of that. They're kind of moving more for speed and desperation versus trying to continue on the stealth too long. Give Mac a crossbow. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if any of the Sahuagins actually use crossbows. I guess you could argue they've maybe stolen one at some point. But I mean, I thought about maybe putting one in that treasure cache that's in level 3. I need to give him a crossbow at some point for sure, but specifically that it should have some kind of cool like underwater feature or ability before the final day. If he doesn't get it in this dungeon, I think I'm okay with it. And he's been thankfully he has the Scimitar of Speed, which is actually a really cool item, and he's enjoyed using it. It's almost more Ninja Turtle-ish anyway. But I should give him a crossbow before they go into the actual final dungeon, because that is a mega ass dungeon, and it would be shitty to have your ranged build enter into a final dungeon that you can't actually use your ranged build for. All right, so temple balance is different than the original because we no longer have the shark known as the Maw of Sekala in here. Why did I blow that up? We need to go to room 37. So I'm changing it quite a bit, which means I'm sure I'm making things too challenging. I know I underestimate players all the time, but like that last fight, like good lord, it's pretty brutal, and it's an attrition thing, right? There is no final battle in this dungeon. It's not a normal like, hey, we're prepping for this big final encounter. Like they don't know when the final battle is going to be, and they're gonna still have to get out of this location. They really can't go back. So I'm actually thinking we are gonna end up at level 1, escaping out of level 1, which means I'll probably clear up some of those bad guys at level 1, because it's also gonna be a pain in the ass to fight through all those guys. Although maybe by the time they rescue all those people, Lizard Queen be like, yeah, you need to go here, here, here. We can skip all the patrols and do all that, and then we just have to worry about the guys at the very front gate. Might be the best thing to do. Which, man, once they get the Lizard Queen, they'll have like a huge retinue of allies that they have rescued. So the Maw of Sekala is what's in here. Normally, it is a CR7 legendary action and legendary resistance super double-headed shark monster, which is cool. It has an average, +8 to attack, 10-foot range. Its bite and its tail are two very different damages. Average of 16 damage to the bite and 9 damage for the tail. So that's an average of 25 damage if it hits with both attacks. Legendary resistance obviously is very helpful to rebuke any... Although the players aren't using any really nasty shutdown or debuffs like Valravn used in Rime. I feel like it's just been all direct damage stuff. I guess Hunger Vidar kind of... Well, Hunger Vidar is still mainly just damage. I guess it also just fucks people up. But in terms of like, oh shit, I gotta resist this like hold person or slow or something, I don't think the party really uses too much of that. Legendary reactions, it can just use its speed. It makes a wisdom perception check. I guess that's for if like a rogue is hiding or something. It always seemed like a really lame thing to do as a legendary action. It searches. Feed is cool. Turning to the foes of the Maw of Sekala, each creature of the Maw is choosing 60 feet most like a DC. It's just an AoE attack. For not much damage though. With 114 hit points and a 12 AC. It's not a very strong CR7, frankly. I mean, it's got some good damage, but low AC, okay hit points. It's got good physical saves. Actually, surprisingly high wisdom, too, for a two-headed shark. I guess 2 heads are better than 1. I'm replacing it with a much more terrifying creature, which is the Ushulan from Monster Manual Expanded, which is a Chul, like a Mind Flayer to Chul, which seemed like a cool monster that would be appropriate. The Mind Flayers may have gifted this creature to the Sahuagin, maybe as part of their attack force or something. However, I am terrified of giving it the Mind Blast ability on top of everything else that it has. It also has an average of 100 hit points. I was going to crank that up to 150. I might be regretting that, although hit points is very easy for me to adjust, and I adjusted hit points like crazy during last Friday's battle. That was a very easy thing for me to just be like, yep, he's dead, yep, he's dead, yep, he's dead. Damage immunity to poison, condition immunity to poison, AC of 17 is a lot higher. Multi-attack. Makes 2 pincher attacks, 10-foot range, +6 to hit, not as high. 15 damage, some of that poison for average, and grapples creatures. Let's see, grappled. You can have up to 2 creatures grappled. However, if it's grappling a creature, it can also use its tentacles once, which is a save, or you become poisoned and paralyzed, which paralyzed is fucking nasty pants. And do 1d10 poison at the start of its turns. One thing I do like about Baldur's Gate is that I don't think you can ever be permanently stun locked. From what I've noticed, I believe all the debuffs, even if you fail, they only last a certain amount of time before they wear off automatically. I think somebody can correct me, but I think that's correct. Even on things like sleep or hold person or something, I think they wear it. Doesn't. It's not like it's indefinite until they make the save. I think it's like, oh, this lasts. You get like your first initial save, and that lasts for like 2 turns or something. It's like they just averaged like how long it should last, but without people getting like permanently stun locked. I think I like that reasoning more than this final sentence on a lot of effects in D&D, which is the target can repeat the save at the end of each of its turns and the effect on itself on a success. So instead of it only lasting like a turn or 2, instead it could potentially last a whole lot longer if you can never make that save. And that sucks. That really sucks to be paralyzed like that. So, I don't know. I'm looking at that. Now, granted, they have to suffer the... They have to be hit by a pincer, which means they're grappled. And then it uses its tentacles, which it can do once per turn, which means you also get to make a con save. But then you are poisoned and paralyzed and take 1d10 poison damage at the start of each of its turns. So I don't know about having that paralyzed literally last like that long forever. It just feels kind of weird. So I'm thinking about maybe rebalancing that. And the other thing is, of course, the Mind Blast seems fucking terrifying. Also, the Paralytic Slime works the same way, just by hitting it. A creature touches the neutral line, hits it with a melee attack. Within 5 feet, takes 1d10 poison damage and must succeed on DC 13 con save or be poisoned and paralyzed. Just for you attacking it. This thing didn't have to do anything. Somebody just attacked it within melee, and all of a sudden you gotta make a DC 13 con save or be paralyzed. That's pretty fucking bad. Until the poison ends. So I guess technically 1 minute. For 10 rounds. 10 rounds is the timer. Yikes. The other option I could do is either A, just get rid of paralyzed completely, and instead make it to be poison. Poison's also a nasty debuff. You have disadvantage on all your shit. Although then it becomes not so much paralytic slime. Or just have the paralyzed last 1 turn. Which I think is the easiest thing to do. And say, hey, at the end of your turn, it wears off. So you lose... Well, actually, if I do it that way, that's interesting. So the paralytic slime, it would happen on somebody else's turn. So if they were to attack... So let's say it's Gottwald attacking this creature. And that means if I say it wears off at the end of your turn, then you would be paralyzed, but then it would basically wear off immediately because your turn is ended. This is why Gloomhaven has the special rule that it lasts for an entire turn. So it always ends. Every condition you get ends at the end of your next turn, which means if you get it during your turn, you have it for the rest of that current turn and then for the entire next turn, and then it wears off. Whereas if you get it during an enemy turn, then it wears off during the end of your next turn. So you only have it like for the 1 full turn. That always makes more sense to me. So that's kind of scary. The fact that, I mean, somebody's going to be attacking this thing in melee. And DC 13 con, I mean, Gottwald can make a con save like crazy, but I don't know, it's just scary. Mind Blast, I may get rid of that and just change the Mind Blast to the shieldy thing that we used in Wreck the Golden Crown, and I think then it was like a frightened effect. It wasn't even a stun. The fact that this thing can stun and paralyze through 3 different ways just feels like utter bullshit to me. Shout out to Dragon X and the Monster Manual Expanded team. But for a CR7 creature, which already hits like a truck and is a pretty good melee tank, to have literally 3 different ways that it can paralyze or stun you. One of those passively, it's just on its body at all times, does seem like a little much. And I haven't even given this thing legendary resistances or actions like the other boss creature does. And with these abilities, I'm thinking, gosh, do I even need to do that? Do I want to make this a proper boss fight or just make this a really scary creature? And at the end of your next turn is normally how it works. Really? I've always seen it like this, which is you can just repeat the save at the end of each turn. Which is basically stun locked. Like, you can, if you never make the save, you are fucking stun locked that whole time. It doesn't say they're immune. It definitely does not. Like, once you make it the first time, you're immune to the slime. You become desensitized to the slime. I feel like at least with the tentacles, it has to do several things to make that work. The fact that it makes 2 pinch attacks, the Unchalon is grappling a creature that can also use its tentacles once. So it can do it on the... Usually when you have a creature that has to do another thing that requires the first creature to be in a certain state, for example, the Mind Flayer's extract brain or the Froghemoth's ability to like swallow people, it can't do it as part of the same round that it grabbed the person. Right? Usually it has its one attack where it's grabbing the person or biting them, putting them in its mouth, whatever. And then like the next round, if the person is still in that situation, then it can do its other bigger, scarier attack because that person's still in that situation. Here, it seems to circumvent that and says, oh yeah, by the way, as soon as it hits with its grapple, and it has 2 chances, it has 2 pincher attacks, then it can also use its tentacle attack and do that all in one round. That's also pretty brutal, I'm noticing. That'd be a fun idea, Sylvan, but it would require a lot of logistics and shuffling all of my overlays and shit around, and it would be a bit of a nightmare. I think I'd have to be like super prepared to do that. It's a fun idea, I will say that, but I am not prepared for it at the moment. But that's a neat idea. Have somebody come on to play an NPC. Nate, you missed it. We just went through that at the start of the session. That was the first thing I did when I was talking about balancing this fight. To briefly go over it, because that's what I'm looking at. Mac and Gottwald are basically out of hit dice after the 1 short rest here. Gottwald probably won't even be full hit points. Chris still has to catch up with us for the short rest. He only has 3 hit dice left. Mac has 0 spell slots left. Savra has all of her first level, or no, sorry, 2 of her first level and all of her second level spell slots, none of her third or fourth spell slots. And then Toral's fine as a warlock, and everybody but Gottwald is at max health after the short rest. Now they do have their 2 NPC allies, the Triton and Borges has been massively upgraded to basically make him into a freaking godlike tank warrior, which is huge. That's a big boost for the party. And I'm almost assuming now that I'm going to try to get the party to do this temple encounter. And then after that, I think they're just going to try to get out and go up to level 1. And then level 1 will have some fights in it, but it'll be kind of interesting, like falling action and almost where I wonder if we can play it up like the alarms are being called and like enemies are chasing them and they only have like so many rounds. That's a tricky thing to do in D&D. I think a video game, sets that up where it's like you've got a little timer on the screen. You're like, oh shit, I gotta fight these guys, but my main goal isn't to kill them. It's just to get the fuck out of here and get to another section. I'm gonna try to pull that off if I can and have just hordes of Sahuagin following them. I still don't have an exciting egress thought up yet, but hopefully they can jump onto their ship as it passes by or something. You gave me a I already showed that off, Demnix, your awesome champion Borges token. It is glorious, and yes, I am using it now. All hail our glorious catfish god. Yeah, we haven't even talked about the fact that I put the High Priestess in here, and the High Priestess isn't normally in this temple either. She's up in the throne room, making the throne room fight harder. Instead, all you have here is the Maw of Sekala, which is that 2-headed shark, and then these 3 priestesses, and the Maw is actually designed to eat 1 or 2 of the priestesses whenever you aggro the whole thing. So I know I'm ratcheting up the difficulty here quite a bit. Now, the priestesses will not be involved in the fight. They're all concentrating on keeping the Lizard Queen in check. Once their concentration is broken, as per as if they were casting a spell, then they can join the fight, but that will also free the Lizard Queen, who can also join the fight. She doesn't have any of her weapons, but I believe she's got... I'll have to pull this thing out of the way. Like claws and shit she can attack with. Yeah, she's got her bite, she's got her claws. And she's no slouch. She's a CR5, and I also get... I think I kind of custom built this stat block. And she's got some spells with her as well. Hold Person, Dispel Magic, Restoration, Guiding Bolt. And then, like I said, she can actually go into melee without even any weapons on her. So that's a pretty big add. 78 hit points. What did I give her? 90 right here. So she's pretty big. But the weird thing is, you also feel kind of awkward balancing fights by giving the party powerful NPCs, because I don't know how good that makes the party feel. Like, they're almost out of gas, but you're rescuing people who are like at full strength and they're really powerful. Unless maybe you let the party obviously control them, that might feel better. So that's kind of how I'm trying to rebalance things a little bit, is it's an interesting rescue mission and they're getting more power as they go along because they're just rescuing more people. So what do we think about this temple fight then, with the Uchalon having all these insane abilities that I'm very worried about, especially in terms of the paralyze and the stun, because those are horrendous. I think I'm literally going to remove its Mind Blast completely. We won't worry about that. Instead, we might have like this thing do some kind of frighten effect. But before that was a cone, and right now if I did any kind of cone effects, it would mostly hit my people. So I don't know if I'll really use that much of it. And then the Priestess, I think, is also a unique stat block to the final enemy, like a lot of the Sahuagin variant stuff is. And she's just an even more powerful... The High Priestess is a more powerful Priestess stat block, as she has Banishment, Fear, which Fear is a nasty spell, Mass Healing Word, Hold Person, Spiritual Weapon Trident. She can sit in the back and summon that Trident first turn. Guiding Bolt can be pretty nasty because you can upcast that. So she's got some good spells, and she can just sit back there. Does she have a go-to cantrip? She actually does not. That she can cast. That's interesting. I don't have an auto attack feature with her. I guess I could just fire Guiding Bolts forever, because I'm not going to go through that many spell slots. I guess Sacred Flame is the only one that clerics usually have for cantrips. She does not have that. Resistance, Mending, Guidance, and Thaumaturgy. Could also bless people. That's not usually something I do on the DM side, because the DM doesn't have those nifty, like, global attack modifier checkbox that you can do on the NPC sheets, and it would be a giant pain in the ass, I think, to roll extra d4s the whole way. I just slow things down. So I don't usually bother with buffs, even though that's a legit tactic. I gave her more hit points also. She's got an average of 71 hit points. I gave her 100 hit points for a caster. She only has an AC of 14, though. And Blood Frenzy is only for melee attack rolls, not for spells. So that kind of helps with things like... I was worried about that for a second with Guiding Bolt. And I could always add additional enemies here to make it harder. I don't foresee the need to do that too much. There's only one room around them. All these rooms are beautifully constructed, but there's only one that actually has any enemies in it, and it's this room 34 that has 1 priestess and 4 of those shell sharks. I think the easiest way to add additional enemies to here would be some shell sharks come in from any of the entrances. Maybe the priestess. I could even have her, like, she spends a turn just like summoning them or something, because they all have shark telepathy. I mean, Toro could just throw a Hunger Fadar in the middle of the room. That would be pretty nasty, but hopefully they don't think to do that over the queen. Maybe they do it like here or something. That could definitely slow things down for everybody. I've got to find a way to get this Uchalon thing under control. What was the original? All right, let's look at... Let's compare it with the... I remember once upon a time, I was really excited about this high-powered Uchalon. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to use this one. And now I'm like, oh, fuck. This place is way harder than anybody realized. I might have to make some adjustments. So this guy, the CR4 version... God, still has the 2 pincher attacks and tentacles. That seems crazy to me. It can do its tentacle in the same turn. Still DC 13, still paralyzed. It basically has the same fucking stuff. It doesn't hit as hard. It doesn't have the extra poison damage from everything, I guess, which 1d10 can really change. The fact that you can get paralyzed just by attacking a dude is real bad. It's real bad. Similar to a Chul's tentacles. All right, let's look at a regular Chul. What does a regular Chul do? Surely there's a regular Chul in here. CH. Am I missing it? CH. Is there not a regular Chul in here? It's impossible. This is an underwater campaign. I refuse to believe that. Champion, Cloaker, no Chul. You've got to be kidding me. Maybe I replaced the Chul at some point? There's no fucking way there's not a regular Chul in here. It's like, I don't know if it's iconic, but if you had to give me like top 5 water monsters, that's actually a good DM roundtable. Top 5 monsters that have a swim speed from the 5e monster manual. Does a Chul have a swim speed? I might have to look at that. Okay, I did add it. That's why. I guess I had it. Did I use a Chul at some point? The ones up here are not alphabetized. They're just ones that I added. I guess I deleted the old one. Okay, Chul does have that as its effect. That's fucking crazy. I guess I haven't fought against a Chul at some point. Chul makes 2 pincher attacks. If the Chul is grappling a creature, the Chul can also use his tentacles once. And the tentacles do have the concept of be poisoned. And until the poison ends, the target is paralyzed. Wow. It sure can. Gosh, when was the last time we used a Chul? That's scary. That's pretty scary. Now, would you argue if it's pinchering somebody and grappling them, they're not restrained, they're just grappled, can it still attack people while it's grappling? I guess what. So here's my scenario. The Chul has 2 pinchers, right? Each of them attack a different target, let's say. And let's say it successfully attacks both targets. So now it's got pinchers full of targets. It can tentacle one of them. I get that. Next turn, next round, let's say nobody escaped the grapple. It still has 2 targets in its pincer. How does it attack? Mechanically, I think it's still just I would assume it's limited to attacking. And it even says if it's a large or small creature, the target doesn't have 2 other creatures grappled, which means I assume it has to attack the target that's currently grappling. Grappling doesn't actually give it any kind of advantage, so it just attacks normally, I guess. But it could still use tentacles for free. Remember the sewer crawl you guys did in Storm King's Thunder with Koatoa? I replaced them with Chul in my campaign. Jeez. Were they higher level then? I know I've used Chul before, and I know we fought Chul. I just don't remember, I guess. It's been a while. I knew they're like large, scary lobster-looking things. Yeah. It's a cool token. This is one that needs to be popped out, but none of the old ones are popped out. They already look kind of Mind Flayer-ish, frankly. Servants of the Aboleth Empire. Alright, so the main difference with the Uchulon, then, is just that it has that tentacle effect on its skin. But then the high-powered Uchulon, which each of these gives another plus I'm looking at. So a Chul... Okay, Uchulon still has the plus. No, yeah. Oh, interesting. The Uchulon in Call actually has slightly lower stats. Only has a 16 strength instead of a 19 strength. Okay. So its to hit is slightly worse. Its damage is slightly worse. Now I'm thinking I might need to replace it with this weaker Uchulon. Am I just wussing out here? I'm really worried about my poor players. Versus this big bad Uchulon, which has it basically just has extra poison damage all over the place. That paralyzing slime is real fucking scary. Well, maybe I've convinced myself to keep it since the regular Jewel is like that as well. I'm definitely not going to use the Mind Blast. That's just insane on top of everything else. And I think its pincer and stuff is cool in general. Although if it's Mind Blasting, it's not doing its pincer tentacle attack. You could change that to be the frightened effect or a fear effect. Yeah, that's true. Poison alone can be a pain. But you know what's a bigger pain? Fucking Paralyzed. Paralyzed is the worst of all debuffs. The worst. Because it's stun, but also everybody has like auto attack on you or something. And it's like, what is it? You have advantage. And then if it hits, you also get an automatic crit. Like, it's bananas. That is terrifying. Imagine attacking this thing for the first time. I hit Paralytic Slime and say, hey, you take 9 poison damage, and you also have to succeed on DC 13 con save or be poisoned, and until that poison ends, you are paralyzed. You're like, oh, fuck. So I don't want to be attacking that thing very often, even though so many of the characters, melee attacking is what they do. I guess I could always give it fewer hit points as well, but that's thing's pretty bad. We could use the lower Uchulon, would be one option. And the lower Uchulon does not have the giant AC. So it's interesting the way they rebalanced it, actually. It got rid of... It kept the hit points, but lowered its AC and actually lowered its base stats a little bit. But then gave it the Paralyzing Slime as an effect. Whereas the Uchulon actually... No, this one also lowered its stats, though, but it just has a bigger CR, I guess, so that's why it gets a bigger proficiency bonus. Mind Blast could be changed to a single target with a recharge on 5 or 6. Well, I was thinking I'd just change it from a stun to a different kind of debuff, like a slow or a fear or a frighten or something. But also I'm thinking about just moving it to the eyeball things. We did that in Wreck the Golden Crown. I looked this up like 2 weeks ago. I don't fucking remember. I did not use Mind Blast, I know that, but I think it was a frightened effect, where it was like, did a cone thing, and if you failed to save, then you were frightened of that eyeball thing, and that was the only thing that had actual connection to the Mind Flayers, and they were using that to communicate to the Sahuagin. If I don't do that here, then they're just communicating through this creature, but I think that might actually be too confusing. The players might think this creature is like the thing that's in charge of the Sahuagin or communicating through them, or a Mind Flayer itself or somehow. I know, I'm bending over backwards trying to think about this stupid fight. The regular priestesses are no pushover either, although hopefully they can take them out pretty quick. They only have 30 hit points and an AC of 12. But they can all cast Guiding Bolt, and they can all cast Spiritual Weapon. They also all have Mass Healing Word. Which I don't think that's actually going to heal too much, but with multiple creatures casting, it would be a pain in the butt. Let's see what that looks like at 3rd level. Ha! 3. They only have a +2 Wisdom. So Mass Healing Word is only going to heal between, 3 and 6? So that's pretty funny. It is a bonus action, though. Players hate enemies that can heal other enemies. It's like the Bane. You see that and you're like, no. No. I have to take that one down. I did thoughtfully put Spiritual Weapon and Guiding Bolt as attacks versus spells would stop. I don't know, it just seems like it makes more sense to put them in here versus having to do the whole spell macro with popping up asking me what spell slot to use and everything. I should do that with the High Priestess too. If you need a way to get the party out of the dungeon without much floor 1 fighting, you could have something fairly high CR attack, floor 3 entrant. Hang on, this sentence lost me. Something high attack, floor 3 entrance. Floor 1 Sahuagin, rush to respond. Level exit click. Oh, okay. I don't want to make it completely... honestly, level 1 is almost completely clear as it is. There's one fight where they come up the stairs and they're seeing the chain gang prisoners. They're being watched over by Sahuagin. I think that's okay. That's a fight. I think it should be an exciting moment. But I'll probably rebalance that fight. And then the very front gate, I think I'm okay with that also having some Sahuagin in there, but that'd be funny for the player. They're all turned to watch the door, obviously, and the players come in from behind and they can start kicking ass. But we can also look at reducing the just pain in the ass of that fight too. But what I'm hoping to do is create a chase sequence event where the players are, you know, in momentum and having to run, hopefully not literally dragging their tokens along that map, but making it enjoyable, intense, and fun, that they're having to move quickly through these battles instead of just leisurely taking their time. But I think to manufacture that pacing, we don't want any of those fights to last too long. So we got to make sure not to use any terribly beefy stat blocks. Like that stupid Wave Shaper. Golly. It's an awful one. In fact, if they do go up to the throne room, I think we're going to delete this Wave Shaper right now. We're going to move you over here, and then we'll definitely delay the Baroness and the random Sahuagin in this room. But I see them skipping this one, frankly, unless they really think we're doing well. We've got the Lizard Queen, like nobody else has messed with this yet. She'll probably want to go up there and fight them, which is going to be tricky because it's not necessarily me as the DM saying, oh, we need to go all the way back up there and fight that throne room people, but she won't argue it much if the party just wants to get the fuck out of here also, because at some point I'm going to have like enemies. I don't want to throw the patrol at them. In fact, what is the patrol? The patrol is actually not too bad. It's 5 Sahuagin, a Coral Smasher, and a champion. It might be easy to take out the champion and just have that be the patrol, or maybe, I don't know, modify that somewhat. But that would be the one group that could show up like right when they're, you know, in this tight hallway or something, and they're realizing like, oh shit, we're gonna have to start having people like chasing us now. We gotta keep things moving. I don't know if I've ever successfully pulled off a combat encounter where the party is having to flee, especially flee over a length of time. James, you might be able to, you're usually pretty good at citing precedent for things that I can't remember. But has there been a situation where the party where like fleeing from a fight is the best thing to do, and it's not a cutscene, it's like legit, we're on the battlefield, but we're having to move our tokens away? Because I know we've created some cutscene situations where it's like, oh, there's overwhelming odds, you guys got to get the fuck out of here. I don't know if we've created a combat scenario where people are literally like having to spend their movement like moving as far as they can. Maybe we have, and I can't remember. Don't forget the seahorse. Yeah, the seahorse has since turned into a person for sure. She's cast other concentration spells, and that's a Sahuagin who's in the dungeon, which I thought that was pretty clever. They locked them up in the dungeon. But yeah, they're essentially starting to aggro the dungeon in the 3rd level. But I'm just kind of playing it fast and loose. I'm not like tracking individual rounds or time or anything. And like I said, they only had a 5-minute short rest. This is basically the group that's coming up right now. 5-minute short rest, which means they've probably gotten close to finding the polymorphed seahorse, and then they'll start fanning out and exploring, and then they'll find, you know, bodies in here that I since deleted, and then certainly start coming after. Which I've got Blade Master Makat is one of the ones who is a real powerful mini boss that I don't know if I need to unleash on the party. Yeah, there are some chase rules. I need to refamiliarize myself with those. That's probably the best example. The Steel Predator from Tomb. I don't remember the details either. I don't know if they were in a... Well, yeah, that's actually probably the best example. When we were fighting it and they went up to the Earth moat, they definitely escaped that fight in a battle. So that is probably a good example. The sinking boat with the hostages. Which is that the Storm Kings one? Which one is that? You gotta start off with a campaign, or else I can't zero in on it yet. But there is some precedent here for fleeing from active battles. And the party should be fucked up. By the time they fight this temple fight, they're going to be on their last legs. Like, they're going to have any hit dice left. Spell slots should be just about over with. Like, they're not going to fight fucking anything else. So what if we lowered this dude's hit points down to 100? Let's make that change. I want to keep you at AC 17. Paralytic Slime. The added poison damage. Oh, maybe I should just use... Maybe I should just use the weaker Uchalon. Maybe that would actually solve a lot of problems. Then it doesn't have the poison effect, and it's got the lower stats. And the lower AC. I mean, I don't want to get its ass kicked. 8 HP is something I can easily fix. Everything else is kind of set. So if I use the lower stat block, I could always give it 150 hit points. I still don't think I don't think I'm gonna do any legendary actions or resistances for this creature though. That might be a way I can rebalance things a bit. Where's the other one? There's the other one. So it'd be using this one, which it doesn't have the extra poison damage. Has basically a -1 on attack and damage. And only has a 12 AC. Slightly worse. Basically a -1 to all of its stat modifiers. Except for Khan's actually better. Huh. A normal Chul has 16. Oh, I think I'm okay with the 17 AC. About the poison damage. What if we just got rid of the poison damage from the attack? The pincers don't have the poison on there. The tentacles do. It kind of makes sense. They would poison and paralyze. And the paralytic slime does. And then we're just going to ignore the Mind Blast. I'll leave it on there, but I'm going to ignore it. We're not going to use it. Alright, so that's one. I don't know how much I just did. I got rid of its huge inflated hit points and then got rid of its poison damage on the pinchers. I don't know if that makes a big difference. But without its Mind Blast, it's probably not nearly as high of a CR. Actually, it's 105 hit points. Maybe I should give it... We'll give it 110. Alright. Feeling better about that. High Priestess will bring you down to 90. About 89. 1989. Shout out to Taylor Swift. And then the others always have their random hit points. All right. If they end up kicking my ass, we'll add some shell sharks. But I mean, they've got to last longer. They got to last longer than this. If they fight the temple, you know, they're surrounded by enemies. It does specifically say any fighting in the temple does not call reinforcements. So it'd be me kind of cheating and saying, oh, well, she can summon via shark telepathy, which they can use 120 feet. So, you know, she could summon the sharks to come aid. But that would be the only reinforcements they would get. I would maybe execute a patrol as they go to level 1 just to show the fact that they're like harried, but it would be a pretty small patrol, I think, because I don't want to throw... It's just so much fucking combat. God, these champions take forever to take down too. AC of 16 with over 50 hit points. But I still need to showcase. Maybe like that size patrol. We'll do 1 champion and 4 Sahuagin if I have to. If we need to execute a patrol. And then level 1 is this room. As they come up the stairs, no longer underwater. So we don't have that to deal with anymore. It's actually lit up in here. And we've got a number of Neverwinter prisoners. Shout out to Demnix for the Master Sliver token I've got. I just figure he's a were-rat all the time. We'll just go with it. How they managed to capture a were-rat, I don't know. In fact, I'm actually making a were-rat assassin stat block also for Monster Brand New Expanded. I love that MME is on Roll20, by the way. Huge boon for extra creatures. This room has a champion, 4 smashers, a priestess, and 2 Sahuagin. That's way too much. We need to tone that the fuck down to make this fight doable and not be a huge pain in the ass. I think we can replace all these Coral Smashers with regular Sahuagin. Does that help us? They're worse hit points and worse AC and worse attacks, I think. The other guys have the Chitin Fists. Yeah, these guys are pretty weak. It's weird that they just don't have enough of these little minions. So let's delete you. Maybe we'll keep 1 Smasher. And we've got the Sahuagin here. I don't even know if I want to have another Priestess because they just fought a bunch of fucking Priestesses. I think I'm going to move you off too. I think we're going to reduce that room and just have a champion, 2 Sahuagin, and a Coral Smasher who are currently in this room. So it will still be a fight, but not nearly as big of a fight as it was. And then they've finally rescued all the Neverwinter people. Now they need to get out of here. We zoom way the hell out. And in fact, although that's not on their map, is it? That whole left side is free of enemies. Go to player handouts. Yeah, it's not even connected, so they feel like they would have to go up the right side. Maybe the queen knows that they've made some adjustments or something. I hate to make him go through this fucking barracks. That's what a pain in the butt that is. Whereas if you take this left side, it's a complete straight shot. Well, these guys would know. The prisoners would know. They've been clearing that out. So that'd be the reward they get for rescuing these guys. They're like, hey, we can take this left side. It's all been recently renovated. They don't have any guards posted up here, any barracks filled up. So we can just haul ass up here. And then all you have to do is deal with this room here, which I should also deal with. These aren't actually... Those are regular Sahuagin. Yeah, I need to... For some reason it uses the token of that one. Let's grab... Yeah, these are the ones I want. Regular Sahuagin up here. And I guess if there was ever a time to include a patrol catching up to them with some kind of boss, probably Blade Master Makot, it would be here. Let's get rid of the Smashers again. All these guys go away, and we'll replace them with a bunch of minion. Sahuagin. Maybe even get rid of the champion. Just make it a pretty lightly guarded top. I don't know. Or we could place the champion. I feel like I'm using these champion stat blocks so much. We'll place you with a Coral Smasher stat block, and that makes you a lot easier. And then if we want to use some kind of chase sequence, it would be up this left side. Once they free everybody here, they'll be hearing people coming up the stairs. They'll have to take off. Then we might be able to run a chase sequence. Maybe getting a little bit theater of the mind here, because Lord knows nobody wants to actually drag their tokens. Shout out to Bear's awesome map making, but I don't think we want to drag tokens along these corridors for too long. So we may turn this into a theater of the mind chase sequence through these hallways. And then regardless of what happens, they'll have to meet up with this fight here because they'll be stopped by this gate and a fight. And then because they're stopped there, maybe we can put like a patrol behind them. And then it becomes a case of like, fuck, we got to just get out of here. Maybe they'll figure that out. Maybe they won't before this, like, just the rest of the entire dungeon comes knocking down at us. I think I'll have to have the queen have some magic means of communicating with the outside, because I don't think the party has any of that, nor do they have much of a plan going in, as is typical of a lot of D&D parties. So I'll have to come up with some way for them to be able to be like, all right, let's get out of here. I'll have a getaway car waiting, or in this case, ship or boat or something that the party can use. I don't know. I'll have to come up with something, but I won't have to do that for next time, thankfully. Where did I put Blade Master Makot on here yet? I did not. Let's move you. He would be kind of the cool mini boss. This guy right here. He's like a stronger champion. Like, we needed that. CR6. But at that point, the party is not necessarily meant to fight him. They're just trying to get out of here. So maybe they catch up like there. He's got like multiple champions with him and multiple fucking Sahuagin. That would be scary as shit for the party to deal with. Okay, so there you go. I think we're breaking it down into just different encounters. Again, hopefully I get them to do the temple encounter, because I think that'd be fun. Maybe a tiny patrol encounter just to alert them to the fact that, like, oh shit, we're being hunted now, or kind of we're aggroing the dungeon. They'll have the fight here, whatever room this is, I forget, 20 or something, with the stairs going from level 2 to level 1, and freeing all the prisoners and fighting that battle, which we've also reduced. And then they can hightail it up. We'll do some kind of cool chase sequence with complications and whatnot. And then they'll just have to battle it out in this very final room, because there's like portcullises and doors they'll have to open and deal with while they're being chased by super powerful Sahuagin threats. And if need be, maybe one of the allies makes a big sacrificial play. Maybe Borges has to step him up and be like, run you fools and everything, and do his best Gandalf impression. We could definitely do that. Just so the party can get out of here and survive and complete their tasks. But it's a very combat-heavy dungeon. Even though it was supposed to be infiltration, it was kind of their whole goal was to just go through and fight things. Hopefully I'm not going to be too disillusioned to it by the time we're getting through it. But, I mean, that temple fight could easily be a session, and then we're probably looking at another session or two making it out of there for these other battles, so it'll be a while. Borges can leave the water for a amount of time that I don't remember. Sylvan was... the Lokoth can breathe air and water, but it needs to be submerged at least once every 4 hours to avoid suffocating. So it can literally be out of water for 4 hours before it needs to breathe water again. So it'll easily be able to handle being up above water. And then Yeah, he'll just have to go back into water at some point. I mean, he can even, any of these three characters. Well, the Lizard Queen wouldn't join their crew; she would be back at the tribe. But the Triton and Borges could be permanent ship crew members for them. In terms of Neverwinter people, I don't know what to do with Master Sliver. Like, maybe he could join the crew limited time. I guess I haven't really thought of it. They may want to just go back up to Neverwinter and drop everybody off. That's probably the best thing for them to do versus because a Stronghold is still dangerous. They can't really go to Thornhold. Thornhold's kind of cut off. Like, so we may have to do a kind of a montage sequence where they go all the way back up to Neverwinter, drop off all those folks, and then come down to do the Styes, which I think is what we'll probably start talking about on Thursday because once again I've kind of exhausted what I can talk about until they start doing more of this, but I needed this full session just to go through and sort of refamiliarize myself with the balance of this dungeon because it is just wacky. All right, that is going to do it for this Monday edition of Crafting the Deep. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Zenicider, Eclectic, Roleplayer, Earl, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Camp Crystal, Counselor, Andrew, Dell, The Reldrin, Captain Woody 79, Stephanie, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amit, Lumpy, Spuzz, Sharni, David, William, Amnesiac, Warden, Mike, and Gold patrons RPG, Peppercrabs, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Dillizard, Lion, Sam, Drome, Nathan, Fasica, Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Carolyn, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. I'll see you for more crafting on Thursday. Yes, Captain Chaos. We need a Captain Chaos encounter, for sure. Figure that out.